Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The comments and views expressed on The Moore Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The Moore Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from Amsterdam and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Kevin Hancock, who is the president of Hancock Lumber Company, established in 1848. Now, Hancock Lumber operates 10 retail stores and 3 sawmills that are led by 460 employees. Now, the company also grows trees on 12,000 acres of timberland in southern Maine. In 2015, Kevin published a book titled Not for Sale, Finding Center in the Land of Crazy Horse. The book won the 2015 National Indie Excellent Award, first place in leadership and runner-up in the spirituality category. Now, Kevin is an advocate of strengthening the voices of all individuals within a company or a community, such as Pine Ridge, through listening, empowering, and shared leadership. Kevin Hancock, welcome to the show.
Kevin, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Isn't this strange? This is the first time that there's been another Kevin on my show, so it's Kevin to Kevin. This is this is our first connection we've got. So this is kind of cool. Okay, with your book, where do we start? Well, it's titled, as I said in the intro there, Not for Sale, Finding Center in the Land of Crazy Horse. Now, for any non-Americans listening to this, not knowing too much about the terminology used there, crazy horse is I'm guessing crazy horse is some sort of ancient Indian term, is it?
Yeah, Crazy Horse was a famous Sioux Indian warrior and chief during the second half of the 19th century on the northern plains, who really led his people's resistance against American Western expansion.
Well, okay, so what is this book about then, in a sense? The Not for Sale, Finding Center in the Land of Crazy Horse. This is, before we get with your backstory, let's just go straight to that. What's the meat on the bones?
Right. So I'm a business executive from Maine, in New England, a little bit north of Boston, and in 2010, at the peak of the housing and mortgage market collapse in this country, I was running a lumber company here in Maine, was and am, and I acquired a voice disorder called spasmodic dysphonia. And after the economy stabilized, I took off on a series of trips to the biggest, most remote, poorest of all the American Indian reservations on the northern plains, and the book chronicles my travels back and forth between my business world to their community, the Pine Ridge Reservation, in a bit of a modern-day vision quest, searching to regain my voice, both on a literal level and, more importantly, on a spiritual level. So one of the toughest questions I get asked, Kevin, is, what's your book about? It makes me laugh. It should be the simplest question, but the book is quite, has many layers to it.
Yes, I can imagine it does. Okay, so what did you find in the end? What was one or a couple of things that you found after going on this quest to find yourself?
Yeah, so the kind of one of the overarching themes is that that while we all come from a tribe, pretty simple idea, but important to contemplate. We're all born on a street, in a neighborhood, in a house, with a family, in a culture, at a moment in time, if you will. And that those tribes we're born into, Kevin, encourage us to think a certain way, act a certain way, and do certain things. But each soul is actually here to individuate and to transcend, if you will, their local tribal norms or conditions and find their own true voice. And my experience, I came to see, was a bit of a modern day vision quest. And the vision quest is an ancient Sioux Indian rite where young people coming of age,
Yep.
or adults at a transformational moment in their lives would leave their tribe and sequester themselves alone with nature for the purpose of seeking a vision, a deeper understanding of the essence of who they are.
Wow. So prior to the economic collapse, then, prior to this trigger point, should we call it, who were you as a person? Did you have these beliefs or truths? Maybe not. Maybe truth is a better word.
Well, I did, but short story, I changed a lot. There were a couple of trigger points. In 2008, I had a evolutionary astrology reading done. I'd never heard of evolutionary astrology at the time, and that made me really stop and think about the essence of being alive, and to consider the notion that the soul was the being and the body might just be a vessel, and that souls incarnate for a purpose, hoping to learn certain lessons and grow in certain ways. So that was kind of eye-opener number one. And then number two, in 2010, I acquired this voice disorder, spasmodic dysphonia, which made it difficult for me to speak all the time or lead in traditional ways. And it also made me stop more often and be still, and listen to others, but also to listen more consistently to the voice of my own soul. And when I sat still and was quiet, I could hear things, no surprise, that I had been missing, but were there all along.
Okay, and what were some of those things that you were hearing?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was that, which is part of the reason for the title "Not for Sale," that the essence of who I was broader than my public role. So I'm the CEO of a family company here in Maine called Hancock Lumber, which goes back to the 1840s, which might not be that old by UK standards, but is pretty old by American standards. And I'm part of the sixth generation of my family to work there. And I love my job and I love the company, but I came to see that it wasn't the totality of who I was, that those were roles I played, and I cared about those roles and wanted to play them well.
Your passion.
but that I wanted to define myself more broadly as a person outside of those roles, and I needed to get away a bit from my own tribe and the pull of my tribe and the demands of running a business in a 24/7 bigger, better, more, go, 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 internet wired world. And Pine Ridge, this really remote, impoverished reservation in South Dakota in the middle of the U.S., became a place where I could do that, where I could stop and think, stop and listen and think.
Wow, you've said so much there. Okay, where do we start from what you said there? Okay, so that's interesting that, what you're saying there as a CEO, is that, oh God, it's almost power. I'm going to put it into simple words here in a sense that, what you do is not the reason, it's why you do it. Maybe you could say that, or as you have said as well, you were more than just, if you were to say who are you back then, prior to the economic collapse when all these events started to sort of trigger, yeah, you maybe could have, if someone said, well, who are you really? And you would have maybe said, well, I'm a CEO of this company, I do this, I do that. But if you were to be asked that question now, you'd maybe say, well, yes, this is my human role. This is what I do. This is my passion. This is what I love doing. But if you're going to ask me that deep question of who am I really, well, maybe I'm a soul and a body. Come here to have a human experience, and you can fill in the gaps.
That's exactly right, Kevin. I think if 5 years ago someone had asked me who I was, I would have defined myself largely by my roles. Today, if someone asks me who I am, I don't see it that way. Those are roles I play, but it's not the essence of who I am. Exactly.
But you enjoy those roles, yeah? It's what you love doing.
I do, yes,
yeah.
I do. No, exactly. And this is one of the other real learnings that I think, the Western world particularly, and perhaps much of the planet today, is so busy in our roles that we think they need to be all-consuming, and we've lost our balance, if you will. And what I found, ironically, Kevin, is when I started spending a bit more time on other things that were calling to me, that made me stronger, more whole, balanced, more powerful, and it actually made me better at my job. And that you don't need to, well, in this world today, the work never ends. No matter how early you get up or how late you go to bed, you could always do more.
Yep.
And so one of the themes of the book is putting the work back in its place where it's important. We're committed and we want to be really good at it, but we're not going to let it be all consuming. To some degree, the book is about, one of the themes of the book is definitely about balance.
Yes. Isn't that, well, balance is an important part, isn't it? That's right. You've got to have balance, and we can soon become out of balance as well. How have you found balance?
Well, I've found balance by having larger pieces of my life outside of and beyond my roles, and I really was kind of forced into this learning. So what happened in 2010, I found myself with this voice disorder, and it was not possible for me as the CEO of the company to do all the talking, run all the meetings, preside over all of the events. I just couldn't do it. So as a defense mechanism, I got really good at listening and asking questions. People would come to me with a problem, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to give an extended answer because of my voice, so I started saying things like, well, that's a great question. What do you think? And what I saw time and time again is that people knew the answer already. They had great answers and solutions. So I'd listen to what they thought, and I would say, that makes sense. That sounds right. We should do that. And in short order, I saw how much better that actually worked. And one of the other themes in my book, and I look at this in business or at places that have been conquered and abused, like the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, is that throughout history, one of the most common results of leadership is that leaders overreach. They go too far. They take too much. They abuse their power and position. And that ultimately overreaching has consequences. And when you look around the world today, you can see that many people and communities are starting to backlash against that old model of leadership. And I go on in my book to suggest, through the learnings I had from my voice loss and time at Pine Ridge, that in the new Aquarian age, the most important leadership trait is going to be restraint, which is holding the power, holding the cards, having the ability to do all the talking, make all the decisions, lead all the meetings, but not using it. And I came to see the loss of my voice, partial loss of my voice, which I had previously only considered as a disability or a problem, to be a blessing and an opportunity and a calling to do what I could to strengthen the voices of others in our own organization at Hancock Lumber or on a disenfranchised Indian reservation where everybody felt like they'd been forgotten and no longer had a voice.
Right. Okay, we're going to get into the reservation. It's just, your story is pretty fascinating, actually. Okay, so as a CEO then, you'd probably be coming across different to those that you're working with, and maybe you're coming from a different space where you're more compassionate, you're more open, you're a bit more loving, you're kinder. There's things about you that maybe weren't as prevalent as they were prior to this experience that you've got. And maybe that's something that other CEOs have it wrong, where they're, with the space that they come in to the organization with, are they coming from are they coming from that greatest side of them? And what does that do to an organization when you do come from that space? Does business allow that thinking, really?
Right. So I've seen great questions, and I've seen firsthand that it does. So it's a wonderful irony, Kevin, in losing the consistent use of my speaking voice. I've acquired more credibility or influence or effectiveness within the organization. I'm heard more in more powerful ways today than I would have been 5 or 10 years ago when I was doing the traditional leadership thing. And our organization, the people and the performance have responded extremely favorably to the idea of, let's create a work culture where everybody has a voice, where every individual's voice feels important, respected, not judged, heard, and valued. And wouldn't an organization where everybody led outperform and be more meaningful on a human level than a traditional hierarchy where just a few people hold all the cards.
Well, that's true, because what you create there is transparency. How have you, if you were to go as an undercover boss into your organization, right? What would that "my voice is heard" look like?
Yeah, so first, I wouldn't be able to
No,
do
I
that.
know
We
you
have,
wouldn't. I know.
I know we have 475 people
Yeah.
here, but I pretty much know every one of them, and they
Yeah.
know me. But yeah, I think giving away power, trusting others, deferring, listening, empowering, being patient. Those are all things that are, by and large, very well received by people in an organization. There's just a lot more responsibility and creativity and entrepreneurial spirit that goes with running an organization that way.
Well, I mean,
makes it more dynamic.
absolutely. I mean, it's a big responsibility. I mean, you've got a lot of people there, and that's a big portion of being of service. That is to provide work for people. I mean, that's it's all part of the bigger picture, isn't it? And I think the way that you're coming, the space you're coming from, is just incredible to be able to come from that space. But I mean, to your working to the people you're working with. But I mean, there's lots of companies you must see, even suppliers that you work with, where it's the culture is not like that, and they must look at you as like, well, this is different.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And again, I was lucky as it turned out, and I think perhaps in life this is not uncommon. So something happened to me that easily could have just been a big problem, my voice. But I came to see the opportunity in it. And I've since come to believe, Kevin, even though no medical doctor would agree with this, that my voice condition was sent to me by my soul, if you will. It was my soul's way of getting my attention and getting me to think differently about leading and living. And the irony or the opportunity of this disorder is when you take the voice away, it makes you stop. It makes you sit still. This is the rarest of necessities in our modern world, is really stopping to breathe, sit still, and think. It's so easy to just be on that go, go, go wheel, and you could spend a year, a decade, a career, or a lifetime without really stopping to think about who you want to be and where you want to go.
Yes, that's so true. And yeah, I for the people that work for you as well, are they encouraged to sort of climb the ladder and to become and to grow, basically? I mean, is that something that's always favorably looked upon? I mean, because if we look at I only say that because looking from it, from I do a lot of shows on the law of attraction, on a manifestation. It's all about sometimes trying to bring into a law of attraction the things that you want, and some of it for a lot of people is is to do something different with than what they're doing now. Is that something that's prevalent in your organization? I don't know if that's a great question, but
yeah, no, it is a great question. It's a critical question, and it's very important to me. So I was able to see a path to put a bit more balance in my own life in a way that helped my personal life and my work. And I want very much for everyone else who works at our company to have the same opportunity. So we've worked for about a half a decade now on putting the work back in its place for everybody, if you will. All of our jobs at our company are full-time jobs. They're not part-time jobs. And our challenge was the average work week was quite long. It was almost 50 hours a week. So we launched a goal of reducing the work week to 40 hours, which is kind of a standard normal work week in the States, and in doing so, to come up with new compensation systems that would incentivize people and teams for becoming more efficient, more accurate, and reducing waste. The old model in this country anyway of how you make more money if you're on an hourly wage is you work overtime.
Right.
So the longer you work, the more money you make.
Yeah.
But that's such a backward goal. And so we've tried to rebuild it and say, look, let's get more accurate and efficient and cut out the waste and the mistakes and so forth. And let's pay ourselves, everyone, for that. So we've built a new incentive plan that we call Performance Gold that has allowed the work week to go from the high 40s to the low 40s, and for people to replace and then some the overtime income with the new incentives of becoming more efficient and better at what we do.
Yeah. Okay, well that's interesting. Okay. How has your colleagues, how has the family and colleagues close to you taken the new Kevin, in a sense, with these new truths? Because obviously you've promoted this book a bit now. You've obviously done a few speaking arrangements. I'm sure there's more to come as well. But how have the family and everyone else around you perceived you and supported you? Has there been the support? Do they understand the new Kevin?
Yeah, I think everybody does, and the book was actually turned out to be a really powerful way to do that. When I finished the book, I gave everybody in our company a copy, and the book is extremely intimate and open about my most personal, soulful journey during that period, and it made me nervous at first to be doing what I was doing, to be leaving, to go to the reservation, to be spending some time writing the book. But it turned into something really wonderful, because I think people want authenticity, Kevin. I think
true.
That's what people
So
want.
true.
And anywhere they see authenticity, a human being just trying as best he or she can to be a human being, to be true to his or her own path, no matter what that path is, I think people respect it and gravitate towards it, and they know it when they see it.
What is that about? Why do we gravitate towards that authenticity? Is it because we can't trust that we've denied some part of ourselves, or do they think that to be that authentic, there must be something other space they're coming from, and it's a space I've not reached yet, maybe?
Well, I think that's a great question. For us all to think about, but I think perhaps in part it's a response to the modern world we live in, which is high in commercialism, commercialization. If you look at modern leadership, if you look at modern politics, there is a lot of just noise there, inauthentic noise that is not overly meaningful to people. And so you've got a planet today where people are busier than ever, but knowing on some deep-seated level, when they stop and think, that something's not quite right. And it's that lack of focus on soulful, purposeful authenticity and living. So when they bump into someone that they believe is just trying to do that with low ego, I think it sets sets off a flame, if you will. And it's like, yes, that's it. That's why we're here. That's what we all want. We're all just trying to find our own voice. That really is the essence of my book.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah, definitely. And there was a question there that's just left my mind, and I was like, right, I'm going to ask him that next. Yeah, that because that's just what he said there. No, that's so true what you've said, and it's so true that I've forgotten my question, but that's fine. Well, let's go, to the communities the ridges that you visited as well. Was it just one particular place you visited, or was it a few places in America that you visited?
Right. It turned out to be one big, remote, famous Indian reservation here in America.
Wow.
In 2012, when the economy had stabilized, I had a growing feeling, Kevin, that I needed to serve myself a bit more, regain my balance, search for my voice. And that summer, I picked up a copy of National Geographic, and the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation was the cover story. And I read that article, and I think perhaps because I'd come to a place where I was really listening, it was as if every spirit and person connected to that story came out of that magazine and grabbed me and pulled me in. And I finished the article, and I said to my wife, I'm going to go there. I want to see what modern day life is like there. So I planned a trip, made a contact, and was hooked. And one trip became 2, which has now become 10, and a journal I was keeping originally became a book.
Some It's incredible, isn't it? And in these visits, I mean, why the Indian reservation? Have you ever considered that there's some deeper connection there for you to have gone to this particular place? I mean, it's a pretty spiritual connection to me, that you've got with these people.
Yeah, so I came to see. I can now trace a lifetime of experiences going all the way back to my teenage years, calling me towards the American West and towards American history in the second half of the 19th century, when our nation's western expansion ran into the Plains Indians. And the story of what happened to those people is really, really terrible, and something that our country has not come to terms with yet. Our country has perhaps largely come to terms with slavery, the slavery period, but not really dealt with the native period. And, the first thing we're taught here in the States in kindergarten is that Columbus discovered a new world, but he didn't. People already lived here. And it's a truth that our country has not fully acknowledged. And as a result, the native communities have not really been able to transcend what happened. Pine Ridge today, the reservation, is the poorest place in America. It sits right in the middle of the country, in the southwest corner of South Dakota, right above the Nebraska Panhandle. And the unemployment rate there is 90%, 90. We had a national crisis in 2010 with the housing market when unemployment hit 9%. And at Pine Ridge, it's 90. The lowest life expectancy in the Western Hemisphere is Haiti, which didn't surprise me. Second is Pine Ridge, South Dakota. In that community, men live on average to be maybe 48, and women live into their early 50s. And it really stopped me, Kevin, in my tracks.
Yeah.
Right? It stopped me in my tracks to realize that there were still communities in this country that had not yet recovered from the quote-unquote winning of the West, or what more, had not yet recovered from Columbus's quote-unquote discovery. And it numbed me to realize that that was true, right in the middle of our own country. And the planet has so many challenges. It's easy, perhaps always easier, to look at everybody else's problems. And this is a problem that has not yet been rectified, not yet been made right. It's still undone.
Right. Okay. My thoughts on when you went to see him. I'm guessing they you got to meet certain people and they shared some wonderful spiritual truths with you. Is there anything in that at all, or was it really all coming from within you? This message of this book.
No, it was a combination of both, which was so wonderful. So over a series of 6 trips there, which my book chronicles, the first 6 trips, I came to learn a lot about their culture, traditions, ancient rites, and indigenous wisdom, if you will. And I thought I could see in the old ways of the Sioux, their tribe, the Sioux Indians, I thought I could see in the old ways a modern path forward for them, for me, and possibly for, as big as this sounds, possibly for all of humanity.
Yep. Well, absolutely. So what is that?
Yeah, so here's what I saw. So before Western expansion, before the coming of the Wasichu, which is the Lakota term for white people, and before the discovery of gold on their land, which they called, get this, Kevin, they called gold the yellow metal that makes the white people crazy. And before the making and breaking of treaties and so forth, when they were free, their community was free and traveled where they pleased, following the buffalo on the northern American plains, their society was strong. And in that time, if you look at how they were organized, virtually all the power and responsibility in their community went to the individual. The individual was the source of power, and the capital, the main office, the headquarters, call it what you will, was small, hard even to find. So the President of the United States, for example, in the second half of the 19th century, would send negotiators out onto the plains to make treaties with the Indians, and the negotiators would show up and say, "Take me to your leader." And nobody knew what that meant, because they didn't think about leadership the way we do today. Surely no one spoke for everyone. Everyone was expected to know their own truth. And this was really embedded in the Vision Quest rite. That rite was a training ritual for individual power. You were expected to leave and seek your own truth, your own voice, your own path, that which made you unique and strong and light up. And then you were expected to come back and live your life in accordance with your own personal truth. And that strategy was really powerful in its simplicity. If every individual was strong, then the tribe would be strong. It was right out of Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, really. The strength of the pack is the wolf. But fast forward to the modern day, where these communities were defeated, conquered, colonized, and sequestered on their reservations, and for generations really big efforts to remake them as white people. A lot of that power that used to live with the individual had been, call it what you will, beaten down, gobbled up, stolen. And today in those communities, all of the power lives with the center, Washington, D.C., or the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's where all the money and the resources and the decisions come from. And in that structure of low individual pride, power, and responsibility, and high central leadership, they've statistically struggled. And I've really come to believe that the Aquarian Age is a transformation from the Piscean Age, where just a few people spoke for everyone. That was the old model, whether it was the church, the government, the business, or the household. And the new model that's wanting to unfold in the Aquarian Age is everyone will know their own truth. Everyone will be the source of their own truth, and the strength of the individual will create the strength of the tribe. And so it just blew me away, Kevin, to see that in the old ways of this ancient tribe sat the path forward for them, for me at Hancock Lumber, and then I came to believe quite possibly for the entire planet.
That's so true, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, these are very deep things to sort of to take in as well, but they're such simple truths in one sense as well. We always do it the most difficult way, don't we? We always do it the most difficult way, if it's got to be done that way. But there is a simpler path as well. In your book as well, I mean, look, we're just, there's a number of chapters in this book. One of them which struck out to me was as well. There's a few of them. Full circle. My life's gone full circle, and I never thought it would ever do. But I don't know if the chapter was referring to something like that. Do you want to just mention maybe what that chapter was about?
Yeah. So the most ancient symbol in the Sioux Indian world is the circle, and that became a powerful symbol because it represented everything they saw in the world around them. A day was a circle. The sun, the moon was a circle. A year in the 4 seasons was a circle. Trees were round, birds' nests were round. The life of an individual from birth to death was a circle. And that circles were the way of the world. It was how the world moved. And that anyway, seeing the world that way, kind of coming full circle, where you mentioned it earlier, Kevin. Sorry, I think we often take the long route as humans to arriving at the beginning, if you will, in that arriving at our individual primal soul's truth that we're born with, that we lose track of, that we get distracted away from, but in real life are here to find. And at the end of a life, you'll come back to it. You'll end where you started in that circle. But the purpose of that life in a evolutionary astrology way or terminology is to try to get on and stay on that circle or path that is your truth for this lifetime.
Yes, and it can be very difficult sometimes to to find it initially. But some have said to me the easiest way to find it is what would you love doing, and what is it you enjoy? What talents do you have that you'd be able to use to go do something with? And if that's working for someone and putting those talents to use because you like dealing with people and everything else, whatever it may be, well, that's what that you just go with it. That's what we know.
Right. Yeah. The way to find that path is to stop and listen. What I loved about the Vision Quest, right, Kevin, is that the biggest step was seeking. Most everybody back in that time, in the old days of Sioux, most everybody sought and received a vision. You weren't a spiritually unique person if
Yes.
you had one. Today it seems that way, but back then this pretty much happened to everybody. But the prerequisite was seeking. The Lakota have a great phrase which translated means or says the spirits will meet you halfway. And if fewer people are having visions today, seeing their path, it's only because fewer people are looking. And this is back to getting caught up in what really at the end of the day we'll all come to see as the superficial, the temporary. The busyness of modern day life is taking people away from that vision quest model.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. And it takes people away as well, doesn't it, from being able to find the stillness in their life, being able to find the present moment. You know, I've said this in many interviews, you know, just flowing sometimes and just being in present moment is a great place to be. And we can't even get there most times, can we, because of the busyness that's going on inside our head, let alone the outside world.
No, and even that's so powerful, Kevin. And even for me, having had the experience, seen that path, and walk that road, I still, if I don't stay centered on listening and following, I'll get distracted too. It's so easy to get caught back up in the pull and the churn of it all. But it's one of the simplest ways. You asked how I would change, how I've changed. That's one of the simplest ways. The old me was constantly about planning. And I don't mean to discount the importance of planning, but the new me is much more into trying to absorb every day to its fullest and to create time, space, white space to follow the path that's coming my way. I've come to say our future bumps into us all the time, Kevin. But we're too busy to see it or hear it.
That's so true. That's so true. Now I'm going to get these words wrong, but someone told me last night something very powerful, which was, when you're happy with life, you're happy with everything, or you will enjoy everything. And what that meant was, I've said before in this interview, when you try to find your passion, do that which you love. Well, yes, I mean, I wouldn't say not to do that, but what that means is when you're happy with life, you'll enjoy everything. Is that just by being happy with life, no matter what you do, you enjoy the whole thing. Rather than saying, well, I'm only enjoying my passion, we're missing out then on enjoying life in its entirety as well. The day, the boring stuff we have to do in the day, we can still enjoy that if we're happy with life. Does that make sense when I'm personifying it? Yeah.
It does. It's really important, and I might
Please
answer it,
yeah.
or add this way.
Yeah.
Joseph Campbell, the great American mythologist, said that over and over again, that we are the truth we seek to know, and that peace and power and calm comes from looking inward. And what I've come to believe, Kevin, is when we are willing to stop and look inward and confront the most uncomfortable or mysterious or scariest ideas or emotions that dwell inside us, when we're able to find an inner peace, it creates outer peace. And that when we are conversely constantly frustrated or upset or agitated by things in the external world, that is largely a distraction, in that we have not stopped to deal with our own internal world. And that, for me, what I've come to believe is when I can find and maintain inner peace and happiness, it becomes the lens through which I see the external world.
Okay, then, well, let's try to answer this together then. How do you find inner peace? And then how do I find happiness with my life? I think, why am I happy with my life? I think I've got very little to be unhappy about. It may not be exactly the way I would want it, but by just flowing, it's perfect. That doesn't mean you're not doing things to change it. I don't know if I'm answering my own question very well there, but how would you answer
well,
internal
I think you
finding
are, because I think what you just said was right on, because it's not easy, Souls are complicated. Evolutionary astrology would say souls are complicated because they've had multiple incarnations across time, and that within each soul is baggage, history, patterns that we can't completely unravel or understand during a single incarnation. And that finding peace at a soul's level is heavy lifting. It's not easy, and that we all have to do it our own way. And we never come to a point, I think, where we've arrived, or that work or opportunity has stopped. But I think the key is to search, is to try. That's what it means to be human to me, really. That's what it's come to mean to be human, is to seek to gain peace, balance within your own soul, and then carry that forward into your external interaction with others and the rest of the world. Much easier said than done. To find that peace, and maybe I think I can't even answer right now why I found it. I don't know. I don't really know why it's there right now. Maybe that's a lifetime's worth of knowing. I don't know, but I've got it. I might just say there, Kevin, too, that that I think that's okay. It's because peace, that inner peace, is more of a feeling than it is a knowledge, and it's really transitioning from living with our head, which is I have to know it or understand it or be able to write it down,
true what you're saying,
to living with our heart, where I can feel it. Which is why I say I think you nailed it in what you said. It's not something you know, it's something you feel.
God, you've just nailed what I've just tried to put into words. Thanks for that. Yeah, you're dead right. You're dead right. It's you can't put it into words. It's like trying to put into words what our soul is. There's not one book out there, no matter how great they are, that really personifies anything what the soul or where we go to is like, because we're not supposed to know. Yes, there may be books where I go to this room, I have this life review. It still doesn't tell you anything. I think it's all surface level stuff to what the greater reality of what we are, and it's very difficult to put that into words, even in this conversation. Let alone when people have written books on it and will come back with information they think is what they've seen from near-death experiences. So yes, to personify that is impossible. What we are. Yeah,
it's feeling over knowing. It's being over knowing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I was going to ask you. I don't want to.
See, this is why it's so complicated. Someone asked me, "What's my book about?"
We still haven't got there because it's just such a it's a lifetime's journey. Well, we have. There is points within this interview where actually you did refer back to your book's title a few times, which was great, I thought, and maybe you did it unconsciously, but you did. Okay, I don't want to keep you on too long because I know it does drain your your voice doing this. Okay, very final question then. Well, you probably answered this, but what is the most important message of your work?
Well, that's a great question, but I would say it is that we are the truth we seek to know, and that truth is personal, and that we are all here to try to find, speak, and live our own true voice, and that in the Aquarian age, leaders have a big role to play in this, and that leadership in the future is going to be about restraint, where the leader quiets his or her own voice to make more room for it to feel safe for everyone else to have their voice.
And even in moments of chaos, it's the best time to come from that space as well, and still try to be in there. Yeah. Well, oh yes, your website as well, because we've been putting your website and the book throughout the interview on the screen, but for those listening on a podcast, your website, Kev?
Yes, thank you. So the book's website is www.kevin, D is in David, Hancock.com, KevinDHancock.com, and there are many resources on the website. The book is for sale for $20 US on the website, and I see and sign all of those orders personally. The book is also available on Amazon and so forth.
I
too.
thought it was as well. Yes, it's on because I checked it out for the UK and Europe as well. It's all available on there as well. Yeah, and I think it's available as a Kindle as well. I think. So
it is. Yeah, the book's really kind of taken off. It's won. I never would have expected this, but it's won 3 American Independent Book Awards. So it's done quite well, and it's just been fun to share these ideas more broadly.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Kevin Hancock, just thank you so much for coming on the show. I've really appreciated your time, and thank you for sharing your story.
I'm so glad you found me, and thanks for all the work you do, Kevin. It was my pleasure.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.